This is my anonymous confession apology. I killed the woman I loved with my own hands on the steering wheel. One moment of selfish stupidity, and Michaela was gone forever. Now I'm writing this from a prison cell where I belong. It was March 15th, 2015. A date burned into my memory like a brand, replaying in my nightmares every single night for the past decade. We were supposed to go to her sister's engagement party that evening. Michaela had spent all afternoon getting ready, trying on 3 different dresses before settling on the blue one that made her eyes sparkle like stars. She was radiant that day. Her laughter filled our apartment as she spun around, asking if I thought she looked beautiful. Always, I told her, and I meant it. Michaela was the kind of woman who lit up every room she entered, who made everyone around her feel like they mattered. She had this way of looking at life like it was full of endless possibilities, and she looked at me like I was the best of them all. But I was drowning in problems she didn't know about. The construction job I'd told her was going well had actually let me go 3 weeks earlier. The bills were piling up, the rent was overdue, and my pride wouldn't let me tell the woman I loved that I was failing as a provider. Instead, I'd been self-medicating with pills I bought from a guy at the gym, anything to numb the shame and anxiety eating me alive. That afternoon, while Michaela was getting ready, I popped 3 Percocet, just to take the edge off, I told myself, just to get through the party without falling apart. I'd driven on them before. I thought I could handle it. I thought I was invincible. The party was an hour away in the next town. Michaela chatted excitedly in the passenger seat about her sister's wedding plans, about how happy she was that we'd been together long enough to see this moment. She kept reaching over to squeeze my hand, telling me how much she loved me, how grateful she was for the life we were building together. I should have been hanging on every word, treasuring those moments. Instead, the pills had me in a haze, everything feeling distant and dreamlike. I was driving too fast on those winding country roads, too confident in my impaired abilities, too numb to realize how dangerous I'd become. "Baby, slow down," Michaela said, her voice carrying just a hint of concern. "We have plenty of time." Those were the last words she ever spoke to me. The curve came out of nowhere. I was going 70 in a 45 zone, my reflexes dulled by the drugs coursing through my system. I jerked the wheel hard to the right, felt the car spinning out of control, watched in slow motion as we careened off the road and slammed into an oak tree that had been standing there for probably 100 years. The impact threw Michaela forward despite her seatbelt. I watched her head snap against the dashboard with a sound I'll never forget. Watched the light go out of those beautiful eyes instantly. She died on impact while I walked away with nothing but a concussion and cuts from broken glass. The paramedics said she never knew what hit her, that she didn't suffer. But I knew better. In those final seconds before the crash, I saw the terror in her face, the realization that the man she trusted with her life had just stolen it from her. The police found the pills in my system during the blood test. Vehicular manslaughter while under the influence. The prosecutor called me a selfish addict who valued getting high more than my girlfriend's life. He wasn't wrong. Michaela's family filled the courtroom during my sentencing. Her mother, the woman who had welcomed me into their home for Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings, looked at me with such profound hatred that I wanted to disappear. Her father, who had taught me how to fix cars and told me I was like a son to him, couldn't even look in my direction. 10 years, the judge said. Maybe that's enough time for you to understand the magnitude of what you've done. It wasn't. 10 lifetimes wouldn't be enough. Prison became my world, and I deserved every miserable day of it. The concrete walls, the bars, the constant noise, none of it compared to the prison I'd built in my own mind. Every morning I woke up hoping it had all been a nightmare. Every morning reality crashed down on me like that tree had crashed down on Michaela. The other inmates found out what I was in for. Baby killer, they called me, and I never corrected them. I let them beat me, spit on me, make my life hell because I deserved every bit of their contempt. Pain was the only thing that felt real anymore, the only thing that reminded me I was still alive when Michaela wasn't. I spent the first 3 years in a haze of self-destruction. I started fights I couldn't win, refused visitors, threw away every letter from friends or family members who still cared enough to write. I wanted to punish myself until the pain matched what I'd done, but no amount of physical suffering could touch the agony of knowing I'd murdered the most innocent person in my world. The worst part wasn't the guilt, it was the memories. Michaela singing in the shower on Sunday mornings, the way she'd curl up against me during movies, her head on my chest, how she'd leave little notes in my lunchbox telling me she loved me, the plans we'd made for our future, the ring I'd been saving money to buy her, the life we'd never get to live together. She'd wanted 3 children. We'd already picked out names: Emma, Lucas, and Grace. She'd wanted to be a kindergarten teacher because she said little kids still believed in magic, and she wanted to protect that innocence for as long as possible. She volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends, fostering dogs nobody else wanted, because she couldn't stand the thought of anything feeling unloved and unwanted. Michaela was pure goodness in human form, and I snuffed out that light because I was too proud to admit I was struggling, too weak to ask for help, too selfish to consider that my choices could destroy the person I loved most. Year 4, something shifted. Maybe it was the letter from Michaela's little cousin, who wrote to tell me she was studying to become a teacher like Michaela had wanted to be. Maybe it was the realization that destroying myself wouldn't bring Michaela back or honor her memory. Maybe I just finally hit rock bottom and decided to try climbing up. I got clean, really clean, for the first time since high school. I started going to NA meetings in prison, not because I thought I deserved recovery, but because Michaela had deserved a man who wasn't a coward hiding behind pills. I began working in the prison library, helping other inmates get their GEDs, because Michaela had believed education could change lives. The counselor assigned to my case was a woman about Michaela's age, who reminded me painfully of what Michaela might have become. She made me write letters to Michaela that I'd never send, made me confront the full weight of what I'd taken from the world when I took her life. She was going to impact hundreds of children's lives as a teacher, I wrote in one letter. She was going to make some man incredibly happy as a wife and mother. She was going to volunteer at shelters and donate to charities and spread joy wherever she went. I killed all of that potential along with her. I started reading everything I could about addiction, about the science behind what I'd done to my brain, not to excuse my actions, but to understand them. I wanted to comprehend how I'd become someone capable of such devastating selfishness, someone who could risk the life of the person I claimed to love most. The answer was simple and horrible. I'd chosen drugs over Michaela every single time I popped a pill. I'd chosen temporary relief over permanent responsibility. I'd chosen my comfort over her safety, and that choice had killed her as surely as if I'd put a gun to her head. Michaela's sister visited me in year 7. I hadn't expected it, hadn't prepared for the conversation. She looked so much like Michaela that seeing her face nearly broke me all over again. "I don't forgive you," she said, and I was grateful for her honesty. "But Michaela would want me to tell you that she loved you, even at the end. Even when she saw that tree coming toward us, her last thought was probably worry about you getting hurt." That knowledge didn't bring peace, it brought fresh agony. Sarah had loved me so completely that even in her final terrified moments, she was concerned about my well-being, and I had repaid that selfless love by being the instrument of her death. Now, with 3 years left on my sentence, I've found my purpose in this concrete hell. I run addiction counseling groups for incoming inmates. I tell them Michaela's story, show them her picture, make them understand that their choices don't just affect them. I make them see the faces of the people who love them, the innocents who pay the price when we choose substances over sanity. Some of them listen. Some of them get clean. Some of them go home to families who are still intact because they learned from my catastrophic failure. It's not redemption. Nothing I do can bring Michaela back or erase what I've done. But maybe it's purpose. I keep her picture in my cell, the one from our last Christmas together. She's wearing a red sweater I bought her, laughing at something I'd said off camera. She looks so alive, so full of hope and love and dreams that I destroyed with my selfishness. When I get out, I'll be 35 years old. Sarah will be forever 24, frozen in time at the moment I killed her. I'll age and change and hopefully become a better man, while she remains exactly as she was in that car seat beside me, beautiful, trusting, completely unaware that the person she loved most in the world was about to become her murderer. I know this apology means nothing. Words are just air, and Michaela needs breath more than she needs my regret. But I need to say it anyway, into whatever void separates the living from the dead, because silence feels like another betrayal of what she meant to me. Michaela, I'm sorry I was too proud to tell you about my problems. I'm sorry I medicated my pain instead of sharing it with you. I'm sorry I got behind the wheel of a car when I was impaired, turning myself into a weapon pointed at the person I loved most. I'm sorry I stole your future, your dreams, your chance to make the world brighter just by being in it. I'm sorry your last moments were filled with fear instead of the love you deserved. I'm sorry your family had to bury their daughter, their sister, their light, because of my weakness. I'm sorry the children you would have taught will never know your kindness, that the man you would have married will never experience your love, that the babies you wanted to hold will never exist. Most of all, I'm sorry that loving me cost you everything. You deserved to be cherished and protected, not killed by the person who claimed to care about you most. You deserved to grow old, to achieve your dreams, to spread your beautiful light across decades of life that I stole from you in a single moment of selfish stupidity. I'll carry this guilt until I die, and then I'll carry it into whatever comes after. It's the price I pay for taking something so precious from the world, and it's not enough. It will never be enough. But I'll keep trying anyway. I'll keep fighting addiction, keep telling your story, keep trying to save other relationships from the destruction I caused ours. Not because I think it balances the scales, nothing ever will, but because you believed people could change, could grow, could become better than their worst moments. I love you, Michaela. I loved you then, I love you now, and I'll love you until my heart stops beating. I just wish I'd been man enough to show you that love by keeping you safe instead of being the one who took your life. Rest in peace, Angel. You deserved so much better than me.